23 seconds on the power play. Shot a goal, rebound shot, he scores! King in front of the net like he's done all game, buries that rebound, 2-0.
What a great job by the Cougars. A really good chance there. Just had to tap it in, but he couldn't.
On the Prowl, keeping up with the Mount Royal University Cougars.
Welcome back to On the Prowl, keeping up with the MRU Cougars, the Mount Royal University Cougars radio segment on the Sportsnet, the Fan 960, where we talk university athletics. Coming up on this segment of On the Prowl, we're going to start previewing the Crowchild Classic matchup between the Mount Royal Cougars and the University of Calgary Dinos, that Crowchild Trail rivalry that is massive. Men's and women's hockey teams both playing in this one. I'm Jordan Magnuson. I'm alongside not Dylan Dodge, Landon Wesley. I don't know who you talked to, but you somehow got a promotion. How's it going?
Oh, good. How you doing yourself?
I'm doing great, man. And we got some big news as well with the former Hitmen player actually going to play for the Cougars. We'll bring that up in a bit. But you've attended a couple of these Crowchild Classic events, and this is pretty much the biggest deal all year for Mount Royal in terms of athletics-wise. What's the experience like there?
Well, it's a big marquee event. I mean, it's big for Canada West, but it's big in CIS. It's the only time all year long that it happens in CIS where the two teams play on an NHL ice service. So, there's a lot of fans there. Last year, there was over 8,800 fans in attendance. It's rowdy. People are dressing up in Dinos gear, Cougars gear. Got the blue, you got the red. Both sides of the building are one against the other. And it's really an experience that's unlike any other. And I know you've never been to a game. I don't know how you've never been to one. And, this is the fourth year it's been. So finally you're going to get the chance and you're going to be in the broadcast booth. So that's an experience that I had as well up in the booth last year. And it's a lot of fun to call the game. But it really is something that you'll never forget being at one of them.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where it's a professional environment with all those cameras, and you got the broadcasting as well, and it still counts for points obviously in the standings as well, but it is a college game and it still has that college vibe. You still have those guys around those 20-year-old markers, those young adults that are just kind of getting out there rowdy, and of course they're chirping those other Dino players as well. So it's a good experience, eh?
Yeah, and the first year I actually got to go to the game would have been 2 years ago now, and the Cougars men's team that won 4-3 in overtime. It was an unbelievable game, and it was Devin Gannon, a former Cougar who actually went on to play in France. So he was a heck of a player for the Cougars, and you don't forget moments like that, and being at a building like that, you really do lose it when your home team scores. And we were sitting in the Dino section just so we could lay it in on them, and it was a good time.
Yeah, and that's the men's game, but of course the women's are also playing in this event as well. They'll be playing earlier on in the day, and those women's matchups between the Dinos and the Cougars are all very, very close. Obviously, we had that one earlier on this year back over at the Flames Community Arenas where it's a 2-1 overtime win, went over to the double overtime, and it was massive. I'm expecting we're going to see more of the same this time around as well.
Absolutely. Another close game last year, 3-2 for the Cougars women's team. First time they've ever won at the Saddle Dome in one of the games, so that was big for them. And it was very exciting. I mean, obviously, we mentioned it a couple times, but the Dinos with their Olympians on their roster, and then the Cougars last year, they were a struggling team, and they came into the Saddle Dome game and they were able to steal away 2 points from a team that probably should have won the game, but Jess Ross was in that night, and she just happened to be the big deciding factor for the Cougars. And men's or women's game, they're both going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about the men's game, and I can't hold this in any longer. We picked up a former Calgary Hitman. He'll be playing on this already dominant Cougars team. Who is this player?
Connor Rankin, former Hitman. You knew him right away when I brought him up. Anybody in Calgary who follows the Hitman, follows the WHL, unbelievable player, is joining Mount Royal, and in his first year of eligibility as well. He's only 21 years of age. Big numbers in the WHL as well. 268 points in 339 WHL games.
Yeah, and he's massive. Obviously, the last time he played for the Cougars, or for the Hitmen, 32 goals, 47 assists in one season. Yeah, that's ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous, so now that top six forward pairing for the Mountain Royal Cougars, obviously you got Karche Fiddler and Matt Brown in that one, but then now you add Ranking into that second alongside Cam McLeese. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous, is it not?
It's ridiculous. And you didn't even mention Tyler Fiddler in there.
Yeah.
24 points, Canada West leading scorer. I mean, it's starting to look like, is this a joke? Jamie King, Tanner Olstad have been unreal. They've come out of nowhere this year. Shouldn't say come out of nowhere, but they've really surprised some people with the numbers that they put up. And Cody Karche's been injured. He's going to be back healthy. He only has 10 points in 13 games. Only 10 points in 13 games. The guy can put up huge numbers in this league. So I don't know how you could possibly ask for any more offense out of this group.
And we talked about how the Cougars, they made the playoffs last season. Obviously, they made up to that semifinals, but this is a team that's looking to go even farther than that by bringing in guys like Connor Rankin as well as Cam McLeese, former RBC Player of the Year. He was just ridiculous in that AJHL, and he's been great for the Cougars this time around as well. And like you said, these guys are first-year players for the Cougars, so it's going to be a long-term. Of course, Cody Karche and Fiddler are about to, and Brown as well, are going to slowly take off, but to do other things. But there's a strong core now for the Cougars as well.
Yeah, and with Matt Brown, 11 goals on the year in 14 games. He's been injured as well, but he's going to be back healthy. But you're right. I mean, this team, there's a couple of veteran guys that are going to be leaving, Fiddler being one of them. But you know what? They've got so much to look forward to with this group, and I know that head coach Bert Gillen, he's licking at his chops. Like, he's going over power play. The power play units you can throw with these guys. I mean, you could throw 3 different units at this rate. I mean, this team is like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, I follow this team very closely for the last couple of years, and in terms of on paper, I mean, the expectations just got raised a whole lot higher for that coaching staff and that player group.
Well, what a test that they're going to be having. The first test, of course, coming against the Calgary Dinos, the Crowchild Classic on January 21st over at the Scotiabank Saddledome. That's the men's side, and of course, we talked about the women's side just a little bit before. But okay, so we have a couple close games between the Cougars, a couple close games between the Dinos as well earlier this season. What's the outcome of this game?
I think the outcome has to be the Cougars coming out on top, just strictly based on where the Dinos have been this year. They've been a struggling team. They're sitting right at the bottom near Canada West, and you have to think that, you know, for the Cougars, the women's team, they need to go in and win this game. It's huge for them going forward. They're 8-7-1. They're sitting right about 500, but I mean, they're only, you know, a couple spots back of first in the division. So they can come in and, you know, they're not going to be dealing with any, you know, they're not dealing with Haley Wickenheiser this year. They're not dealing with, you know, Janelle Perron this year. So they've got, the Dinos just aren't what they used to be.
All right, but we talked about, too, Connor Rankin coming in for the men's side, but they also got a new pickup for the Mountain Royal Cougars on the women's side as well. Who's that?
Janessa Jenkins. Yeah, she's a defenseman for the team. She is in her 5th year of eligibility, so she's coming back for the winter semester here. She has 20 points in 75 games in CIS hockey, 10 goals, 10 assists. She's a heck of a player. I think it's going to be great for the Cougars to have that veteran voice, you know, on the blue line. I know they've had some injuries as well after the first half of the year, so putting her into the mix isn't going to, I can't imagine it would hurt the chemistry. A lot of these players have already played with her before, so it should be a good ad for them.
And I think the biggest story, too, coming into the women's side at least, has been the goaltending this year. It's been absolutely ridiculous between Jess Ross and Emma Pincott. Both have been outstanding, 2 of the best goalies in the entire CIS. Is this something we keep up in the second half of the season?
It's a great question. I've been pondering that myself, just because strictly based on the fact their numbers are ridiculous. Like, they both have save percentages north of .930. Their goals against are both under 2. I mean, how could you possibly hold that up? But in saying that, the defense has been so good for the team this year. I mean, we've seen them play frequently, and you know, I can't imagine that they're going to drop off at this point, just based on the fact that they have done so well with that defense core in front of them.
Yeah, Jocelyn Freilich, one of those players that was just killing it in plus-minus as well. Of course, Shania Alexander, about 6 points and +9 rating as a rookie defenseman. Like, there's some serious talent on the back end. It's just a matter of scoring. Can they put up enough goals against this University of Calgary Dinos squad?
I think they can put off the goals. I mean, this team haven't had near as much trouble putting the puck in the net this season as they did last. I know in terms of what was added in the offseason, they had a lot more speed, and in terms of what they looked for in recruiting. But I think this team doesn't have a problem scoring anymore. Sometimes they do have to get the dirty, greasy goals, some rebounds in front, goals like that. But overall, I don't think this team's going to have a problem scoring against UFC or any team. I think if their defense holds up, defense is going to end up winning them games at the end of the day.
Come get your tickets, cheer on your Mountain Royal Cougars, and cheer on the newest Mountain Royal Cougar, Connor Rankin, former WHL Hitmen superstar. I had a chance to sit down with him earlier this week. All right, I am here with the newest Mountain Royal Cougar for the men's hockey team, Connor Rankin, the former WHL Calgary Hitmen superstar. Connor, nice having you in here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. And let's talk about what brought you over to Mountain Royal specifically, because obviously you came from BC, and you've only really played 2 years over at Calgary. Why the transition over to Mountain Royal specifically?
Well, what's the 2 years in Calgary? Obviously loved the city. Everyone made me feel at home here. Obviously knowing my billets, and I have some friends here that go play for Mont Royal or even UFC. So Calgary has always been a place that I've been familiar with. So it was pretty easy to make my decision to come to Calgary. And seeing how Mont Royal has improved in hockey over the last couple of years is pretty crazy to me. Obviously, I had a lot of feedback knowing guys like Tanner Olstad and Matt Bellerive on the team, playing with them in the past. So, I did my research, but the big thing for me was seeing how much they've improved over the last couple of years, and hopefully seeing it more in the next few years.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough division, and we'll talk about that more in a second. But let's talk about the welcoming into Mount Royal here. And I know talking with a lot of people, including the head coach, that everyone's really excited to have you on board here. What's the welcoming like here for you specifically?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, from the management all the way down to the players, everyone's doing a great job making me feel at home. And obviously it's a big transition coming from junior and pro hockey to school, and having to open up the books again, and just a whole different lifestyle. So starting with Bert, the coach, he's been doing a great job helping me out, making me feel comfortable, and the players especially, with practices and the games coming up here pretty quick. They've been doing a great job. So it's it's hard, but the guys have been making it pretty easy for me lately.
Let's talk about that life of a student athlete now. I guess you're just about to start classes here, and you got to juggle that plus hockey and plus the social life and what have you too. So what's your expectations going into this and trying to juggle a student lifestyle?
Well, I know it's going to be tough. It's first time going back to school since 2012, I believe. So, I don't really know how I'll be able to handle all of it right now. Hopefully it comes quick. Obviously school and hockey comes first before social life. It's sad but true, but I'm going to try to make sure everything's done the right way, and it's going to be a lot of work and long days, but that's why I came back, is to expect something like that, and grow as a person and as a player. What's
the level of competition like in from your teammates so far? Like, what's the level of compete for these guys out here?
Well, you can tell the guys really want it. They know they have the team right now to go to the national championships and potentially win. So. I'm just happy to come on board and help them do that. And like I said, going back to practices, you can tell the guys are working really hard. They obviously want to win, and when you have that mentality in a team, all 20 guys deep, it's something special, and that's a big key to winning. So. I'm really honored to join a team like that, and then it makes hockey way more fun.
So you scored over 30 goals in your last season with the Calgary Hitmen, which is massive. Are you expecting to be put into that goal-scoring role again, or does Bert, the head coach of the Mount Royal Cougars, have you doing something differently?
It hasn't really been clarified yet. Not having played a game yet. I know the team has a lot of offensive ability. They have plenty of guys that can put the puck in the net. So, I'm hoping I can be one of those guys. It's never bad having too many guys that can put the puck in the net. So, whatever role he needs me to be put in, I'm glad to do it. I know I know whatever it takes to win. So, that's more of my mentality right now, and whatever he wants me to do, I'll do it.
All right. So I know you're looking forward to your first game, but let's skip ahead here in a couple weeks, because the biggest thing for not only Mount Royal but in CIS is usually the Prowl Jan Classic coming up, and that's the big rivalry between the UFC Dinos and the Mount Royal Cougars. And obviously, with your experience with the Hitmen, you've played at the Saddle Dome frequently, and you've been in that environment, but not many players outside of or on the Cougar squad have done that. Is there a lot of experience that you can share with your teammates, or is it just kind of another game?
I think that's the experience where it comes in. You got to think like it's just any other game. Obviously, it's not. There's going to be 14,000 students there, cheering for the Cougars and the Dinos, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a little bit different as a Hitman compared to the Cougars, just because, this game is so special for Mount Royal. Playing the Saddle Dome is a pretty special thing to do. I mean, it's an NHL rink. The fans in Calgary have always been great. Like I said, I played a lot of games for the Hitmen at home, so it'll be a little familiar for me. But like I said, it's going to be a whole different atmosphere. So. The best thing to do is just to take it all in, obviously have fun with it, but you just got to treat it like any other game and hopefully get the 2 points.
Perfect. Well, Connor Rankin, thanks for being on the show. You'll be able to catch a chance at seeing him over at the Prowl Jan Classic over at the Saddle Dome on January 21st. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For the fourth straight season, the Prowl Jan Classic series between the Mount Royal Cougars and the Calgary Dinos will hit the ice at the Scotiabank Saddle Dome on January 21st. And Landon, one more before we let you go here. How do you get tickets to this game?
Yeah, tickets are available on both campuses. It's free admission, first of all, so you can get tickets at MRU, UFC, also the Flames ticket office as well. For Mount Royal, there's a tuition giveaway that they do every year. So anybody looking to get a tuition giveaway from Mount Royal, you have to have a wristband. You can get those wristbands at the Cougar Athletics office on campus.
That is it for this week's edition of On the Prowl. Thank you to all of our sponsors, MRU Broadcasting, Landon Wesley, who surprisingly was not terrible on air, and Spencer Schultz for doing his thing behind the board. Thanks again to Connor Rankin as well for being a part of this MRU Cougar squad. We look forward to having him and seeing him on the ice. Tune in next week as we're going to have our first Cougar recap of the year. All the sports teams are out on the courts and ice this weekend. We're going to be reviewing all of those games and, of course, hyping up some more Crowchild Classic action over at the Scotiabank Saddledome. That game, of course, January 21st. For the rest of the broadcasting crew, my name is Jordan Magnus, and we'll see you next week for On the Prowl.